This episode is sponsored by the Twindle Foundation. Learn more at www.twindlefoundation.org.
Let's talk.
So many people stay hidden due to fear. Fear of judgment, shame, or even guilt. You are not alone on your journey. Girl, you are not alone. This is a safe place. A place to be heard, a place to be free, a place to be yourself. Bring your girlfriends and let's talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about it. Thank you so very much for joining us on the podcast. Listen, I've been so excited. Listen, first of all, I need to say this, and I didn't say this before I hit record, but I have had the worst day ever. And I could not wait to get on this podcast. I was just like telling one of my lenders, I was talking, I said, I'm recording for a podcast in a little bit, and I can't wait to get on there because the podcast helps me more than it helps the other people. And people don't realize that, but there's so much that goes on, and just being able to have adult conversation, and being able to share and talk about things, it changes my life. And I just felt like I had walked through life alone and by myself, and I wasn't being, and sometimes you get so wrapped up into things and you don't have that time to take a step back or take a moment for yourself and openly share or become vulnerable. And so that was the biggest part of me creating the podcast, because there's some things that I need to talk about, and I'm sure that there's things that other people need to talk about. So you know what? I say we dig into this and let's talk. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it, girl. You speak in my language. That's my whole mission. Everything that I do is all about helping women understand that we're not alone in our journey, and that no matter how much we look quote unquote fine on the outside, and that we're really hurting internally. And it's important to speak about it so that we can start our healing journey, because you don't have to live in pain. You don't have to cry yourself to sleep. The name of my book is Girl, Get Off the Couch, because that was me. Going out looking fine, coming back, crying myself to sleep on the couch.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Ate on the couch, cried on the couch, and it's something about eating and crying together that that's what happens when you eating and crying. I don't know what it is. Your brain just overloaded. It just hits the comfort level, right? And so that was my story, and I did that for so long, trying to chase this marriage I was in, trying to, do everything I can to save him, to save the marriage. And it was costing me my life, my health, my physical health. I gained all this weight. It was costing me my mental health. I was crying every day, sad, depressed. It was costing me my spiritual health, because I was like, God, what's happening? You got me in this situation. I can't get out. It cost me so much. And until one day I was just at rock bottom, and I was like crying on the couch, and I said, God, I can't live this life anymore. I don't know who I am. I don't recognize myself. I can't do it no more. And I have to break up with a lot of things. And it starts now. And God whispered to me, he said, girl, I believe that God talks to us in a way that we communicate with him.
Absolutely.
And he was like, girl, get off the couch. And I was like, what do you mean get off the couch? You ain't gonna just come save me? You're gonna take this fried chicken out my mouth that I'm sitting here young and all?
Oh my God.
And those words really were the starting point of transforming my life from the inside out. And really getting clear about my purpose, and really getting clear about the pain I was in, the pain that I had carried so long, well before I met my then husband, and really transforming my life one step at a time. And those words, girl, get off the couch, is what he whispered to me.
Girl,
and it was,
get off the couch.
Girl, get off the couch. And it wasn't just getting off the physical couch, which is where I spent a bunch of my time, but it was this realization that no one is going to save me. No one is going to come kick in my front door and put me on the treadmill. Nobody's going to take this fried chicken that I ate every day for over a year. Every day I ate fried chicken. Nobody's going to come and save me.
Wait, every day?
Every day. I talk about it in my book. Every day.
Wow.
Every day. People are like, what? Girl, I was on first name basis at the chicken joint. Like, and they knew me when I came in. They cooked my chicken fresh. Like, I'm telling you, it was crazy. But it food helped, and at that moment, hope helped to calm and provide comfort. And the comfort that I was so lacking from the pain. I was just, when you're in such pain, you look for whatever refuge you can find, whatever covering, as unhealthy as it was, and looking back, it hurt me even further in terms of my health, but it provided an immediate comfort. And that's what I was looking for. And so many of us, I often talk to my clients. I often say that we look for one of the 4 B's when we're in pain. We look for the bar, we're going to use alcohol to comfort it, right? We look for the bakery, which was my deal. I'm gonna eat it up, right? It's good, I'm eating it, right? I love food, right? That's where my comfort was. The bedroom, we're gonna jump from bed to bed, man.
Wow, yeah.
We're gonna try to all around, looking for love in all the wrong places. And those things, our brain says, because we're wired to be in a place of calm and peace. And when we are suffering from emotional pain, our brain says, whoa, I got to find a way to override this. And we want to grab the first closest, nearest thing that we think is going to provide that relief. And so oftentimes when we're suffering from addiction, it's because we're trying to escape this pain.
Yeah.
And food was an addiction for me. And so until that day, that moment, that realization of not only the physical couch, but the emotional couch, basically all the things that kept me stuck, held me back, all the things externally and internally, because I was part of my own problem.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing, right? It was easy. I could sit and tell you how my ex-husband was slipping and sliding in these streets.
Wow. Yeah.
But that's the easy part. The hard part was saying, what was my role in it?
Wow.
What was my role in it?
Looking yourself in the mirror.
What was I telling myself that made this situation okay? What brought me to a place to be with a man that would hurt me in such in a major way, that would betray me in such a major way? And it was from pain and trauma that I had since childhood.
Oh, yes. Talk about it. You know what?
Girl.
It all stems back to childhood. It all stems back to childhood.
Right. And it's an unpopular opinion, but we recreate the traumas of our childhood in adult relationships.
Yep.
We look for the mirror, right? When you hold when you hold up a mirror to your face, that's what relationships reflect. That internal conversation you're having with yourself. So my internal conversation was, Radisha, you're not good enough. And anybody that comes across your path, you need to hold on to them. No matter how they treat you, no matter how much they disregard you, no matter how much betrayal there is, I need to hold them. I need to collect them, because otherwise because I'm not worthy enough to have those relationships internally, right? And it stems directly from my childhood. My mom was addicted to drugs and alcohol. I was raised in foster care. And so there was a lot of transient relationships as a child, right? Here today, going tomorrow, here, live in this place, going tomorrow. And so as an adult, everybody, even the people that wasn't good for me, didn't serve me, I needed to hold on to them.
Right.
And that was a direct reflection of the marriage. I was holding on because I felt like I had to. When somebody's in your life, you have to hold on to them, because I had such movement as a child. Yeah. And so that's the thing that I had been running from for so long. That's the bag that I had packed away neatly and covered in the back of the closet, the way back, the stuff you don't ever, the clothes you don't fit, the shoes you don't wear. That's where I had that bag. And so it required courage in pulling it out and unpacking it.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was hard. It was some ugly crying happening. But my God, it really transformed me internally, externally, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And it really helped me to find my purpose and passion. Yeah. Which is helping other women, right? Through that darkness came a light. It helped me to write my story in the book for it to become a bestseller. It helped me to be on a national crime show, right? It
Wow.
helped me to be, in California at a music festival talking to celebrities about mental health.
Mm.
It helped me to be here with you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you saw the book. And so there is, I often tell my clients that sometimes there's a breakthrough waiting in a breakup.
Yes.
Even though it's hard and it's uncomfortable and it's painful, but sometimes God needs to break some things in our lives for us to have that level of clarity and that breakthrough that he's waiting for you to have.
Yeah.
In that life of purpose and wholeness and fullness. Because, when I look back at my life before my healing journey, and now I don't even know that girl. I
Yep.
don't even recognize that. I'm like, I keep an old picture of me when I was 80 pounds overweight in the midst of all of that on my bathroom mirror, to serve as a reminder how easy it is to
Slip back
go
into
back
that.
there.
Yep.
Yeah. And to remind myself that each day I'm breaking unhealthy habits. Each
Yeah.
day is a conscious effort. It's a conscious awareness. It's a choice to not go back there. You never get to a place of like, yeah, girl, I'm done. I done lost the weight. I'm good. No, every day I wake up that God allows me to wake up, I open my eyes. I thank God to be alive. And I thank God for the wisdom and the courage he gives me on this journey. And because you have to make a conscious choice every day, and the journey continues.
Yes. Yes. That was
It's
so
ever
good.
evolving. It's ever evolving.
I want to kind of go back a little bit because there's something that I feel like is going to be so beneficial to other people. You were talking about being in a relationship, but for you, that being in a marriage and just the craziness of the marriage and being able
Mhm.
to finally look yourself in the mirror and pull yourself out. Like, hold on a second, Radisha.
Right.
What are you doing? Do you know what I'm saying? What are
Right.
you doing? Why are you
Right.
allowing this? So I want to know, how did you get to that breaking point when you said enough is enough? Like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right. I was sick and tired of myself. I was sick and tired of crying. I was sick and tired of being in a relationship and feeling lonely. I was sick and tired of making excuses for the behaviors that hurt me. I was sick and tired of sacrificing myself, right? Because
Right,
that's what
right.
we think we're doing. We have to sacrifice ourselves for the health of the relationship. And our vision, when we're so close to the relationship, when we're so close to a situation, we can't see what's right in front of us. It's only after we take a step back to change our viewpoint, then we have a different vision of the relationship.
Yeah.
And it required me taking a step back. And I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know what was going to happen. I felt like I got to a place where it was I have nothing else to lose.
Yep.
I have
Yes.
nothing else to lose. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I had done everything I could. There was nothing remotely physically, mentally, emotionally. I had nothing else to give. And it became a decision of remain in the relationship and die. Because that's what it felt like. I felt like I was
Oh,
slowly losing my sanity. I
yeah.
felt like I was slowly losing my sanity, my sense of self-worth, my center. I was slowly becoming somebody that I didn't know. And the longer I stayed, I felt like the more stranger to myself I became. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt, I was driving into work one day when I decided, like, okay, yeah, I have to file for divorce. I was driving to work crying, asking God, help me, change him, right? And it was very clear that if I remained in a relationship, I was either going to be in jail for murdering him,
It's not worth it.
or or I was going to be in somebody's hospital.
Wow.
That was no other path. There was no other path I was taking. And so, although I felt so much shame in ending that relationship, even though because as we often do, blame myself. I carried the shame, the disappointment, the hurt. I felt like it was all on my back, even though it wasn't me out there having a good time. But if as many women, I carried the shame on my back, and that's what kept me in the relationship as long as I was feeling ashamed, feeling like a failure in ending the relationship. But truly, that really was the best decision for me, and that decision changed my life. It
You,
literally changed my life.
you know what's so crazy is just think about this, and a lot of times, and I know that I've been through that this before. Just thinking about, how sometimes you can be in a relationship and you know that it's bad or someone's cheating and you don't want to walk away because you don't want to let the other person win. But the thing is
Right.
that you're losing because so it's like, why the hell am I here? And why do I give a damn about what anybody else thinks about me walking away? You know what I'm saying? Why does it matter what other people think? That has been the question that I've been. Well, now I don't ask myself that question. I always tell myself it doesn't even matter what these idiots think out here. And not in a bad way. I don't want anybody to think I'm saying anything bad, but you know what I'm saying? It's just like, why does someone else's opinion of me matter? It doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Because the judgment of people, it's kind of like, now I look at people and I say, judge yourself. You know what I'm saying? Judge yourself, or I like to say this one, you ain't talking to me. You talking to God because you mad. You mad at God for blessing me with this. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like now I think it's like once you go through those situations and then you start to realize, once you grow through it, you start to realize that, hey, all the stuff that we go through, none of that stuff matters. The most important thing is just knowing your purpose and who you are, finding your identity. And I think that when you go on that healing journey, that's when you start to figure out your identity, who you are, and what really matters. At least when I started my healing journey, when I came out on the other end of it, the most important thing was who I am. You know what I'm saying? Who I am to myself and who I am to God. And anything else it does not matter at all. Like, I'm not giving anybody my attention to make them feel like they're that important, And I constantly remind myself that God would never withhold anything of good from me, and that I do not have to stay in situations that are not serving me. But it took It took time to get to that point. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And I tell clients when I first doing our first consult, I tell them, listen, healing, when you make a conscious effort to start this healing journey, it is literally going to transform your entire life. The friends that you think are your friends will no longer be your friends. The relationships that you used to hold so dearly and hold on so tightly, you will start to release them. It's going to change the whole framework of how you operate. So, and it's kind of like getting new glasses. Like my eyes was kind of blurry before. I couldn't see the board. Once I start this healing journey, I'm putting glasses on. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I took this so long. What was I thinking? Oh my God, he wasn't even worth that. My God, I can't believe I wrote a check that big. He wasn't even worth it, and you can't put that genie back in the box. You can't unsee once you've had that vision, right? And so, it really does change your whole life because it changes how you see everything and how you see yourself.
You start to see the value in yourself, and that's the biggest part. And you know what? I always, well, not always, but on social media, sometimes I hear people talk about, healing journey, and a lot of times people feel, well, people may feel that when they no longer feel the pain, then that means that they're healed, but not knowing that they've only suppressed it. And you can tell when you're not healing the area because the triggers and your reaction to it, because at some point you should be able to walk away and not even be disturbed. That's when you know that you have true healing, not trying to retaliate. That's when you know that you have true healing, not thinking negative thoughts or letting those negative thoughts grow, stopping them in action. I'm not saying that it won't pop into your head, but you have to cast them down. I remember And then also just knowing what the word says. I remember I was so angry and I had prayed and asked for forgiveness, and I thought that I had forgiven the situation
Mhm.
that I had went through. And I remember the Holy Spirit telling me so plain that you're not healed. You're not healed. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not healed? And it was more of I thought that I had moved forward, but I remember having a feeling of joy waiting for someone. You know how you be like, oh, they're gonna get theirs, oh, they're gonna
Yeah.
get it. And
Yeah.
it's
I can't
just
wait.
like, no,
Mhm.
that's not healing. Because and I think you have to recognize that, you know, saying God deals with us all in a certain type of way. You don't go around looking for somebody's downfall. You don't go around hoping that something bad comes from it, or you're gonna get what you deserve. That's not healing. That's not healing. And
Mhm.
when the Holy Spirit brought that to my attention, I said, oh, you're right. And
Mhm.
that's when I realized that I wasn't where I thought I was. So I had to go
Right.
back. I had to go back and work on that situation a little bit more, because if you were looking for someone's downfall, no, that's not healing.
Mhm.
God said
Right.
that He would get the vengeance. He doesn't
Right.
need no assistance from you.
Right. Right.
He does not need any assistance.
I did a post on Instagram, and it said, I wanted revenge, but God said that they already in pain.
Ooh,
And I created that because as you mentioned, as I was getting out of the relationship, I was just like, I want him to suffer, and I want you to pull his heart out through his chest. I want him to feel every pain and every tear I cried. I want him to feel it. I want him to suffer. I want him to know what it feels like. But they already walking in some level of pain, and God is already doing what He needs to do. And you don't need the help. You don't need to add to it. He don't need a team captain.
nope.
He got that covered. He got that covered. He don't need you in the back cover. Get him again. Hit him again. You know what I mean? He got it covered. And once I was able to start praying for my ex-husband,
Yeah.
I knew something dramatically changed for me. Dramatically changed for me internally. Because I was really wishing him well, really wishing his healing, really wishing transformation for him. Because I know that man, I cried a lot of tears after that divorce, and he's looking at this nice dark chocolate in these streets. I know he done cried some tears. So I'm gonna leave that there, right?
Exactly.
And so I pray, even now I pray for him, and I hope he's well, and I hope he's healing, because part of why he did a lot of things he did is because of some unresolved childhood stuff that he
Yes.
experienced, right? And so now we get to have those real conversations. We get to acknowledge where we're at. I often, talk to women about the narrative that we tell ourselves is literally how we're going to frame our world, how we're going to choose the people in our world, how we're going to choose the job we have, how we're going to choose whether or not we go in business for ourselves, whether or not we go to school. All of those things come down to the narrative that we tell ourselves. What are we telling ourselves, right? We often think about external relationships, my relationship with my parents, my relationship with my boyfriend, girlfriend, my relationship with my siblings. But ultimately, the greatest relationship you're going to have outside of the relationship with God is the relationship you have with yourself.
Yes.
You always going to be with yourself. Yourself is always going to be there, 100%. And how you nurture and care for and protect that self really is a defining act for the life in which we build, and what we value in our lives, in our experiences. And we no longer have to ascribe to this belief that, we just get what we get. No, God wants this for us.
Yes.
He has upgrades on upgrades waiting for us, up levels waiting for us, right? And He wants to bless us, but we got to do the work. He's not kicking in your front door and taking the fried chicken out your mouth. Trust me, I tried. He never came and took it out of my mouth. So you got to do the work. You got to get off the couch and start to fight to take your life back.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, it's a beautiful, on the other side of things, it's a beautiful, beautiful life. I'm blessed beyond measure. I from my relationships, from the people in my life, from the tribe of women that support me on my journey, because I believe that adults need tribes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's a beautiful thing to walk in your purpose. And that's what I try to help women do, is to walk and find their purpose. When you walking in your purpose, you so busy, you ain't worried about what so and so said or so and so whatever. You so busy on you like, God got a purpose for me. Now I gotta do X, Y, Z. I don't have time to focus on what the X, the next, or whatever else doing in these streets, because you're too busy walking in your purpose.
I'm going to tell you this. The moment that I started to be honest with myself, be honest with my feelings, and be honest with God about the way that things felt, that's when I knew that I had power, breaking power to break whatever it is, that cycle or what I was going through. And during my healing journey, I sometimes I lay on the couch, or I'm in bed, or even at night before I go to bed, when I'm saying my prayers, I start talking to God about how certain things make me feel. It's that honesty. It's acknowledging, identifying, speaking it out loud. You're not just trying to bury that or keep it hidden or anything like that. It's like, no, let's talk about it. Okay, God, let's talk about it. And even those times when, and I say this, and I've told the story so many times, that there's been so many times that I was angry with God. And I'm like, God, what in the world? Or God this or whatever. And
you let this happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh.
You let
Yes.
me love the wrong person.
Yeah. And so you realize that you're treating God like you're treating people. You know what I'm saying? But it's
Right.
the honesty. It's the honesty, because God already know exactly what I'm
Right.
feeling. So why not? Why can't I just be honest? And sometimes when I talk with people and I said I had this pull with God, and I'm just like, God, what in the world? And it's like, I can't believe that you act like that. Why? God can believe that I act like that, because he needed to know exactly how I was feeling. That whirlwind, he needed me to acknowledge and express, be honest with myself, but be honest with him as well,
Right.
so that we could work through those. It's those conversations. And then you think about it, growing up with conversations with my own father that I never had, that I never spoke about, never talked about those things. It's just like my relationship with God is different. And it has to be different,
Right.
because I'm not going to hold that stuff inside anymore like I did when I was a kid. No,
Right.
because I should have been able to talk to my father and tell him about how I felt about whatever it is he
Right.
done or whatever. So now I'm in a place in my life where I can talk to my father and tell him exactly how I feel about what's going on in these situations, and how I expected him to show up like
Right.
he promised to show up.
Mhm.
Exactly. Just giving him back exactly, God, what you said. And but God, I did this, and God, I was expecting this, but this is not, so that he could tell me exactly where I am and allow me to see where he is and where I've gone wrong in situations. But it's that open communication with God. It is so freeing. And I try to be so transparent with people, because I don't want them to miss out on having a good relationship with themselves and with God, and being okay with having those conversations. It's not against the rules. There's no rules to that. God's gonna love us regardless of what, and he already know you're feeling it. He already know you're thinking it. So why can't
Right.
you just say it? Why keep
Right.
it bottled up? That's not what we're supposed to do.
But so many of us on our journey were taught to just keep it inside, to not speak about it, and it slowly eats away at our self-confidence, our sense of self-worth, our fortitude, our sense of intelligence. It just eats away at who we are internally. And then we wake up one day, as I did, and not recognize yourself, because you're just trying to, quote unquote, get through it, because I'm going to be strong, right? I'm going to be strong. I'm not going to cry. I'm just get through it and make it happen.
But who told you to be strong, though?
Right.
Who told you that? Because that ain't what God said. He said, place his burden onto him. Place your burden onto him.
That's right. That's right. And as you go through this journey, you learn that the key to all of this is vulnerability. Being okay to be vulnerable
and transparent.
To say, this is what I feel. This is my truth. So many of us are afraid of our truth, because we don't want to alienate people, because we've been told it's not true, because we've been told to take it through some filter. Okay, that truth ain't good, so we're gonna put it, and we're gonna make a cake out of it, make it all nice and pretty. No, my truth is my truth. And I'm going to walk
Exactly.
into it. I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to stand by my experience.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be able to help other people as well.
Right. Because the magic of this healing journey is learning, my God, I'm not the only one.
Exactly. That is
We
something.
feel so lonely. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, in the midst of that relationship, in the midst of my eating fried chicken every day I was like, I'm the only person in the world has ever been through this. I'm the only woman in the world that's had a cheating husband trying to hold on to it, right? I'm the only person in the world that's cried myself to sleep every night on the couch. That's what we feel, and that's what we tell ourselves, which alienates us further, which makes us feel even lonelier, which makes us sadder, which makes us more depressed. And so finding out this truth and truly being honest with ourselves is, man, it's the first step.
Yeah, you know what? I remember I was going through a situation and I heard the Holy Spirit said to me that I wasn't alone on my journey. And I thought that God was saying to me in that moment that there was going to be people there that was going to, help me or, that. But what I noticed is, I mean, that could have been a part of it. But the other part of it was every time I turn on this computer and I have these interviews with people and I hear their story and I'm like, shut up, get out of my life. And then I start to realize more and more that the things that I face in life, that I was not the only person that was going through it, or I wasn't alone in that situation. And then I also started to see that God brought them through that situation. So God ain't gonna leave me in my situation like he is. And then that's when I realized, oh, okay, God, now I see what you're saying. I'm not alone on this journey. There's so many people out there that is hurting, but there's also so many people out there that are healing. And that's what we want people to see, that it's okay to heal. It's okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay to want more for yourself. It's okay to become free by letting go, free by just talking about it, free by opening up, free by meeting new people and being able to fellowship. And that was something I had this interview earlier today. And when I logged on to the interview, I saw like this group of people and they were all laughing before they hadn't turned their mics on yet, but they were all laughing, having a good time. And when they did, I said, well, y'all look like y'all having a good time. I just kind of busted in there like, oh, y'all look like y'all having a good time. And one of the panel speakers, he said to me that on my journey that I was going, he said, fellowship is very important. He said, every time they got together, the group got together, they always have a good time, but they're bonding. And he said that when you're with people, you should be able to trust them in a way where you know that you can learn from that person, that whatever it is said, that it's not going anywhere, or what I'm saying, or just trust them to be in your space or trust them to be in your life. You know what I'm saying? I always say I look for safe people to be in my surroundings, because if I feel someone's not safe, I'm sorry, but you got to go. And so that just, and he said, when you go through life, you want to, fellowship is important. And I felt like, you know what, it was kind of what God was saying to me, because I always feel like I'm placed in a group of people and it's like they're pulling on me for whatever it is that they need from me, but I'm not getting anything back. And it's so like I have to go out and find to be fed. And it's just like, now I'm in search of people that I could fellowship and learn from, and not being always the one that's feeding somebody else.
Right. Woo, girl, stop talking about me, because I promise you that has been the story of my life, because that's what they tell us. We're taught that we're supposed to take care of everybody else.
Absolutely not.
And not put ourselves even remotely on a list of the top 20 things, right? It's like, if you have time between the hours of midnight and 1, it's like, no, I have to come first, because all the things connected to me rely on me. So I have to put myself first. And that's really hard for a lot of women. It was certainly hard for me at first. I felt guilty. I was like, but I'm taking away from somebody else. And it's like, no, they're taking away from you. They're taking away from your full potential. They're taking away from the plan that God has for you, because you have to have this time, this safety, this focus on yourself, so that you can touch all the people that he has for you to touch.
Exactly. I've been given from an empty cup for the longest and not being
Mhm.
able to have my cup filled back. And that has been like the hardest thing for me. And now I'm just like at a place where in my work profession, I'm more of I'm not going to just accept what people give me. I'm no
Mhm.
longer going to do that. I'm going to decide if I'm going to work with someone or if I'm not going to work with someone. I'm also going to decide where if I feel like I need to pull the plug on this, I'm sorry, but I can no longer work with you. And I've been in that situation before, and
Right.
I would let people drag me because I felt
Right.
like, well, I can get through this, or I need the money, or that type of stuff, and you hold on to that because you feel like you need the money. Money keeps people in certain situations
Right.
on the job, or continue to deal with sacrificing yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so I did that for so long. And so I was just like, you know what, God, I'm not there anymore. I'm not. And I was telling you earlier that I had such a frustrating day because I was dealing with a situation and I was just ready to pull the plug. But I wanted to make sure, and I said to God that I said, God, I'm so frustrated with the situation and I don't want to repeat my past, the past that I just came out of. I've been in counseling for 2 whole years and I'm no longer serving things that aren't serving me. I'm not going to let it affect my life or my health, or I'm not going down that path again. I need to make better decisions. And so I was just going on. I spoke with my broker and I was just like, well, I'm ready to cut ties or whatever. And, lo and behold, right afterwards, and I think it was more of, it's kind of like the sacrifice, being willing to make those sacrifices,
Right.
because I felt like the moment I said, okay, God, I'm going to choose, I'm not going to allow this to happen, he turned it. The whole situation turned.
Wow.
The whole situation turned. And I was just like, okay, God. And I felt like in that moment I needed to decide. And I feel like when people hold on to things, hold on to that job, hold on to that relationship, they continue to keep themselves captive when God has
Right.
something greater on the other hand, on the other side of it. Even if you just decide and say, God, I'm no longer doing this because this doesn't feel right. This doesn't line with your word.
Right.
And then all of a sudden that whole situation can change when we give it over to God and not try to change it ourselves. I think
Right.
we need to be having those conversations with God about whatever needs to be changed versus trying to change them ourselves, because the only person that get hurt is you.
Right, right. We got to be willing to take another look at situations. Sometimes we dig our heels into situations, relationships, jobs, you know, certain things that keep us tied down, to keep us stuck because we don't want to change the viewpoint of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe breaking that situation, breaking up with that situation, changing your direction, getting a different perspective, maybe it's the one thing that's going to be your breakthrough. And so we just have to be open. I always tell my clients, I always ask them, are you open to the possibility that maybe you did it, that maybe you're wrong? Maybe the way you've been looking at the entire situation is wrong. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
your whole perspective is wrong. And if they're like, I know I'm right, blah, 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 then very little will change.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just tiny bit open to, maybe I did say something that I wasn't supposed to. Maybe I did jump to conclusion. Maybe I was triggered and responded to my partner in a negative way, right? It really changes your life, because ultimately this healing journey is all about changing your perspective, changing your
Mm-hmm.
vision, changing how you see things, and changing yourself in all of it. And it's a
Yes.
beautiful thing, and it's a gift that we all need. And I hope our conversation today has encouraged someone listening that they are worthy. You are worthy of a life of love. You're worthy of a life of commitment. You're
Come
worthy of
on.
having a partner that supports you and loves you and values you and treasures you. You're worthy of all of it. You don't have to ascribe to a situation that doesn't serve you,
Mm.
because God has more for you. God has upgrades for you, but you got to be willing to break up with some things. You
But
got to be able to think about some things.
let me share something with you on that note too now.
Uh-huh.
You got to be willing to know it's you. because
Ah,
because a lot of times we look at people in situations and stuff, and I'm gonna tell you something. I have prayed to God and asked for God to change people, and you know what, or it's the situations, and guess who was the one that ended up changing?
you
It
can't.
was
Yep.
me. It was me the whole time. And like a lot of times when I talk to friends about situations or something with other people, and it's just like, well, that's not right, and that's not of God. And the thing is that you need to be willing to hear from God and know the direction that He's taking you through, and not take the word of other people. Because sometimes there's some things that God need to work out in you before He can
Right.
change those situations around, or before He brings somebody, or open up, or let something blossom. And that was one thing that I had to learn for myself, because I had this there was a really nice guy that I was friends with, and I was hoping that it was going to go in a different direction, right? And so I walked away from it because I felt like, hey, I've been in this situation for a long time and there's nothing that came from it.
Right.
And so
Right.
and I was so paranoid, right? I was so paranoid. And so when I walked away from it, and I remember the Holy Spirit said to me that you can't see him and he can't see you. And I was just like, okay, God, like, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
then later on, that's when I realized that there was so much going on inside of me. I was clouded. My eyes was not being able to allow me to see.
Right.
But then here goes, I'm thinking about, so there were some triggers that was in me, and I didn't even realize, didn't even know, hadn't started my healing journey at that point. Yeah. But then I didn't even realize that there was something that was going on inside of him as well. But
Right.
I couldn't even, and we both
Couldn't
were
see it.
like back and forth or whatever, and couldn't even see it. And then later on, we both moved on with our lives, and I went through a healing journey. And the thing is that, guess what? Once I was able to see clearly and work on myself, and I'm not saying, I don't want people to run with this and think that, oh, you're going to get the relationship back, because that might not happen. But
Right.
we ended up becoming the best of friends, and I could see the value in that person, even though it didn't go in that direction, and we both moved on. But it was more of, gosh, this was such a beautiful friendship, and it could have turned into something great, but we weren't there. We weren't, because there was something inside. And I feel like, even though the situations could be negative and it doesn't work the way that we want it to work, the beauty of it is that we discover who we are, and we get to clean up our mess. When I started
Right.
seeing myself, because I didn't see it, I didn't know that I still had that pain. I didn't know that, because I didn't feel it anymore. So I thought I was good until those
Right.
triggers, things just started to trigger me. And then I was just like, okay, well, there is something wrong. And then when I started the healing journey, I was like, oh, this messy in here. Like, this is a mess. Like, God, what in the world? And I was like, ain't no way this is me, God. What are you doing? Like I couldn't even believe what I was facing in the mirror. Like, I couldn't believe all of the stuff that surfaced. But it was worth it, even though that I thought that I lost the relationship. I still gained a friendship, even one. But it helped me to realize where I was. And so that's true healing, when you can walk away, clean up your mess, and still be friends with someone, and not look at them in that direction or whatever. Because at the end of the day, he was still a good person, but I had my own issues that I needed to deal with.
Right. And so that is what you're saying is so on point. Here's what I work with a lot of women in my breakup coaching work that have gone through relationship breakups. And so I often tell them, do the healing, because it's going to change even the guy that you attract, because we are energy beings. And if we're hurting, we're going to attract someone else that's also hurting. It's just going to look differently.
Yep.
Right? We're going to keep repeating the same unhealthy pattern. They're going to have a new face, new name, might look a little different, might be skinny, might be bigger, might be taller, might be shorter, but it's going to be the same person, same energy. And you want to shift your energy by healing so that you attract something different. You attract people different. And people often, a lot of my single friends are they always say, oh, ain't no good men out there, blah, blah, blah. Well, there are really great men out there. There really are. There are really great men out there. But you're never going to attract those great men if you have a hole in your heart, because that hole is going to be 100 great men in the room, 99 great men in the room. One guy that's a serial cheater, that's emotionally unavailable, that doesn't value you. You're going to make a beeline to him because that's what your energy is speaking for you. And it's amazing to see it work. You don't literally have to say a word. Your energy does all the talking for you. And if you want to change the guys that you're attracting, change yourself.
Yes.
Change your feelings. I promise you, I'm currently engaged. I'm in the process of planning my wedding in
yay!
6 months, right?
Congratulations.
But thanks. But after my divorce, it took me over 2 years before I would even go on a date because I knew I was hurting and I was going to be attracting the same hurt, and it was going to be a nightmare. It was going to be just a crazier situation, and I knew that. I was smart enough to know that I needed to do the work, and so I waited.
Really do the work.
And really do the work, and I really focused on myself. I focused on my health. I focused on therapy, right? And I was seeing a therapist. I had a fitness coach. I had a personal trainer. I created what I like my healing team.
Yeah, that's good.
And so if I did not do that, I would not be getting married today because I would be attracting that same guy over and over and over again. And it's amazing when you heal and you change your energy, your energy filters out those guys. Those guys they feel you. No, because she's no, I can't play with her. I can't do those things, right? And so I know that it works because I've seen it work even in my life.
Right. Absolutely. Because I'll tell you this, when I met someone, this was a long time ago, but I met someone and I started seeing, okay, so just talking or whatever. And I realized, I said, hey, this almost seems like the exact same situation that I was in prior. And I was just a different person. I was like, okay, God, something's wrong. And that's how I knew, hey, something's wrong.
Right.
Like I'm getting the same thing. This doesn't make any sense. But the thing is I feel like, and I always, because I would be talking to my friends about dating or whatever, and I would always feel like, no, I'm not ready. I would just kind of choke up, like I'm not ready. But I honestly, at that time, I wasn't ready because I knew, you'll know when the release comes, you'll know when God allows you to move forward or whatever. And it's just like, or even if he hasn't and you're trying to move forward, it's not going to work. It's not going to work out. It's going to be the exact same thing. And it's just like when it does come together, that person will see you.
Right. And it won't be hard. It won't be hard and it won't feel like work. It will come naturally. And it's a beautiful thing. It's an amazing thing. And my fiance, he's just such an amazing guy. And that is just has this level of emotional intelligence. And I believe that it's a direct reflection of the work I did, so that I would attract someone that has emotional intelligence, that's able to talk about feelings, and that has been on his own healing journey.
Yep.
Right. And so it's unpopular to not go into another relationship or find somebody else or move on. What's the saying that people like to say? The way you get over somebody is get on top of somebody else or something like that.
Oh,
that is literally the worst advice, because you're just going to triple up your trauma. You're just going to double up your trauma, and that's going to be more work.
Are you going to spew that negativity on somebody else, especially if it's a good person, and then you're just going to bring that baggage into their lives. And now I realize when people says, I've went through my healing journey and I've healed, I shouldn't have to deal with that. I mean, I do get that, but sometimes people be like, they healed you. They probably did. No, I shouldn't say that. But sometimes they're not ready. Yeah, they still have. But the thing is healing is ongoing. It's continuous. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like just the same as we talked about when you talked about weight loss. You put that picture up there as the reminder. So, but you have to continue to put in the work, and that's the same thing with healing. It just doesn't stop. Like there's so much that we have to deal with. And if you have stones around your heart, there's so many stones that needs to be removed.
So many layers to this.
Yes, exactly.
Unpacking all the things and all the experiences of your childhood. And oftentimes, especially when I'm working with clients, consciously, they're not even consciously aware. That's the thing about this, right? so God designed us to survive, even in the harshest situations. So the harshest traumatic situations, either as childhood or relationships, your brain is designed for survival. And so what happens is this really bad thing happens. Our subconscious stores it in the back of our mind, removes it from our conscious level awareness so that we can continue doing what we need to do. So we can continue working and taking care of things that we need to take care of. And once you start healing, what healing looks like is now I'm consciously aware of all these bad things that I locked away and threw away that I thought had no impact on my life.
And some things you don't even remember.
You don't even remember.
No, I'm like, good Lord, where did this come from?
And it will come in the most unusual situations. You'll be like, oh my God, it's a smell. Somebody said something. And it automatically triggers this memory that you never knew that you had stored. Mm-hmm. And because your subconscious records everything that has happened in your life, every bad, every tear, it is recorded in your subconscious.
It is.
You're not consciously aware because you wouldn't be able to function if you were. Your brain automatically puts it's kind of like the computer with safe mode on the computer. Mm-hmm. That's what we're operating on in our life, is the safe mode. And healing looks like, okay, I'm consciously now aware that I've been operating in safe mode, and now I'm ready to heal. And slowly we start releasing all the stored information from your subconscious to your conscious level awareness. And then you start making connections. You start making connections like, oh my God, I stayed with this guy because I was afraid. I didn't believe I was worthy of a healthy relationship because I moved around so much as a child. Oh my God, I always say yes to things, even though I need to say no.
No. Yep.
Because I want to please everybody. I don't want people to be quote unquote mad at me. Mm-hmm. I always have to show up for people because I believe they're more important than me.
Or I have to show up for people because when I was growing up, I had to show up for my family. I've taken on a role as an adult, as a child, and now I'm in my adulthood, still showing up for people, taking the role of God when that's His position. And so it's just like, take your hands off of it because this is not your burden to carry.
Right. Or I have to control everything in my life because because I feel like if I release my control, I'm going to be hurt. I'm trying to control every little thing, driving myself crazy because I believe that's how I protect myself. That's how I protect myself from being hurt.
Or because because I grew up with a lack of security.
Right.
Now I'm overworking myself, trying not to repeat that cycle when I should just be trusting God and in His purpose for my life and knowing that He's promised that He would provide for me. But in my mind, I'm still trying to provide for myself because I'm still living from that place of lack.
Right.
When I was a child.
Right. Or I grew up in chaos. And when things are calm, I'm uncomfortable. I get very anxious because I feel like something bad should be happening. And it's about to happen. Right. I don't understand when you're nice to me and everybody's calm and not cussing me out because I grew up in chaos. That's what love looks like to me. Love looks like me cussing everybody out, turning up the tables, and then we going to dinner like everything fine.
Fine. Yeah.
When you're not doing that, I'm uncomfortable. It makes me very anxious. This is not what love looks like to me. Right? It's those levels of realizations.
I was at a point in my life where I thought that I had to be in a stressful situation to thrive. That's when I knew that things were, going in the right direction. Right. And I'm like thinking to myself, are you kidding me? Like I really felt like it needed to be crazy because I work so well under stress. Like, you know what I'm saying? I need a little, no. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't need any of that. Now I'm in a place in life like, listen, I don't need that. Let's just cut it. I'm not going through that anymore. But I really thought that I needed to function in that way. It was like, okay, there's no chaos, there's no stress or whatever. And then when the stress came, then I felt like, oh yeah, this is not right. This is not right.
Right. But when we grow up in chaotic homes where there's emotional and physical trauma, that's that's a reflection of that, right?
Yeah.
We grow up into adulthood believing that that's what life should look like. And when it's calm and people are peaceful and everybody's just laughing and having a good time, you're like, something's wrong here. What's going on? I'm waiting for something else to happen. I have to have that pressure, that sense of walking on eggshells, that sense of alertness, that sense of, hey, I need to know everything that's happening right now and something bad's about to happen. When that's not going on, then somehow this doesn't feel right to me.
Wow. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's so
Mm-hmm.
crazy how chaotic things are, and we just live our life through all that chaos, and we just think that it's
Right.
okay. And then it's like, if you go out and find different people or new friends or fellowship with other people and you see them living a normal life, and it's just like, well, hold on a second.
Right.
Look at,
Y'all ain't arguing. Ain't nobody cussing each other out. What's
Mhm.
happening? Right.
Because
Right.
you gravitate to the things that you see and you think that's the norm, you know what I'm saying? And then a lot of
Right.
times society is telling you this thing, something this, or, you know what I'm saying, you're believing that
Right.
this is the way that, and so I came to a place in my life where I just tried to dismantle everything that I've learned
Mhm.
over the years and only seeking what God is telling me in that moment. Right now, it's very hard for anyone to probably get through to something that they're, because I'm like, okay, I heard you. But
Mhm.
let me ask God about this first. I
Right.
want to make sure that this is correct because we're seeing a whole lot of stuff, and a lot of people are leading from a bad place. And
Right.
that's the thing is that they're leading others. And so it's just like, I think when you come to that point of healing, you start to recognize that this is not right. And a lot of that stuff has hurt me so bad because when I think back up, I'm like, I can't believe I listened to that, or I can't
Right.
believe I followed that. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It's just like,
Right.
it's not right. And sometimes I beat myself up for being a fool too. I'm just like, I just can't believe how did
Right.
I do that? But you know what? I just try to give grace, trust God, and just know that people are operating from a bad place, and it's just,
Right.
and you know what I'm saying. But then I had to think, hey, you were operating from a bad place as well too, and you probably spew some of that negativity, a lot of it, on someone else or whatever. And the only thing you can do is ask for forgiveness and give some
That's it.
grace to the next person. We have
That's
to
it.
constantly remind ourselves, like, okay, let's humble yourself because you remember when you were in that place, or you remember,
Right.
because it could easily happen to anyone. Just because
Easily.
you got out, you don't get to look down on somebody else.
No, it's a constant everyday evolution. It's a constant for self-forgiveness, right? And there's freedom in forgiveness. There's freedom in grace.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God. The freedom that we find for ourselves in forgiving ourselves for things that we did while we were in pain. We didn't have another choice. We didn't know of another choice.
Yeah.
And so, that's where the meat happens. That's where the change happens. That's where the transformation happens. And we all have the ability to get there. We
Mm-hmm.
all have the ability. We just have to believe that we're worth the effort.
Yep. A lot of times I stop and ask, even there's things that I may not even think about. And it's so crazy because I'm going to tell you, I have prayed and asked the Holy Spirit to reveal myself in those situations, in very dark places, or things that I needed to bring back forth so I could remember, so that I could ask for forgiveness, for those situations or whatever, bad things that I've done or said to people. And I'm telling you, that thing was just coming like this. And I was like, hold on a second. Don't show me too much at one time. Like,
Wait, that's too much now. I was saying a little bit.
but when we do pray and ask, the Holy Spirit will reveal those things, areas in our lives that we need to bring change to.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
that's what this journey is about. This journey is understand that one, we're not alone,
No.
that we're going to make mistakes on the journey, and that's okay. But every situation, every experience helps us to, one, learn more about ourselves, helps us to provide grace upon grace upon grace to ourselves and to
Mhm.
others, and also helps us to get to our final destination in this journey, which is a
Yeah.
purpose-driven life.
Oh,
You got to
absolutely.
go through some things in order to get there. And so, even with relationships that end, that you feel like, oh my God, I can't believe I let myself get into that. I can't believe I dated that person. I often explain to my clients that relationship taught you something about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That relationship taught you the things you want in a relationship and the things you do not want. So each one gets you closer to your life partner,
I like
your
that. Yeah.
soulmate. Yeah, because you learn with each experience.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
it's not failure, right? Because we often think of when things end as failure. No, it's just getting to that next level.
I always remind myself that God could use anything.
Mhm.
There's never any losses. We win in every situation. When we look at things from a different perspective, it's just like I'm winning. It may feel bad, it may look bad, but you're
Right.
actually winning because there's a lesson in all things. Yes.
Right.
Well, you know
Amen.
what? I want to say this because this has been such a great conversation, and I do love talking about healing. I do love talking
I
about healing.
know.
But we talked about what healing looked like, right? But I want to talk about what healing felt like for you. For me, OMG, I was on a constant roller coaster. Today I feel good. Oh,
Right.
I work out and I wake up and I'm like, oh, today feels so good. Like it's perfect. And I feel myself moving forward. And then it could be a few hours later, and then it's just like, oh gosh, what in the world? God, this is crazy. I'm not moving. I feel like I'm moving back 10 steps, blah, 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 you know what
Right.
I'm saying? Just going on. And then maybe a month later, you're processing and you're like, okay, this is good. I'm feeling good. I'm moving towards, you know what I'm saying? I'm grieving. I'm getting through this cycle, whatever. And then next thing you know, I'm back on that roller coaster again. And it's just like the ups and downs. And the thing is that healing the journey is peeling back those layers like onions, you know
Right.
what I mean? And
Mhm.
then it's kind of like sometimes it may go in a zigzag, like, so it
Right.
could be all over the place. But the thing is that you are healing and you just have to
Part of
keep
it.
going, just keep going and allowing yourself, giving yourself grace and giving yourself time because all the things that you went through, you didn't go through it in one day. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
It was a
right.
process. And so it's going to be a process to undo all of those things and to heal from that. And so I thought that was very important for people to hear because for me, like when I was on my healing journey, no one ever said it's going to be like, it could be crazy. It could be a roller coaster. It could be,
It
you
is.
might feel some turbulence. You know what I mean? It was
Right.
more of, oh, you start to, and you think that you're going to start feeling great. Like every day is going to be, and it's not, it's definitely not. It's not a good feeling at
Mm-mm.
all the
Mm-mm.
crying, all the, you know what I'm saying? I mean, oh my gosh, like the crying, the screaming. I remember one day I was on the couch and all I kept hearing was the tempo go up. I'm talking to God and my voice was getting louder and louder. Next thing you
Like,
know,
you hear me?
I was hyperventilating while I was pleading my case to God and just telling him I mean, just like a crazy journey. But I don't want people to get discouraged and just get off of it because because a lot of times we go back to our comfort zone. But I want people to know that it can be very ugly, very ugly. And especially when you start to see yourself or you start to feel that pain from your past that you've numbed yourself to, or you swept under the rug or kept in the
Right.
back of your mind that you didn't no longer want to feel that, or, you know what I'm saying? Because you're going to feel that. That's a part of the process. You're
Gotta
going to
feel
feel
you.
that.
You
Yes, you're
gotta
going
feel
to
to heal.
feel that. Yeah, you're going to look yourself in the mirror. You're going to see your own ugliness, you know what I'm saying? And you're not going to like it. Yeah, you're going to realize that, yeah, you do stink, And so,
Right.
yeah,
Ooh.
you're going to realize that you do stink or you're not as perfect as you thought that you were. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because I feel like not that I was perfect, but I always tried to do things a certain way. And then you don't even realize that, listen, you looking a little bit crazy right about now. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
And so, yeah, and so and then a lot of times you may be in a place and you start talking to other people and you'll realize that they're not where you are, but at the same time you can't judge them because it took you a process to get to where you're at. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times people you might be sharing your story about something that's ugly and people are looking like they probably give you like judging or oh you got to do this
Yeah.
or
Judging
pray this and
eyes.
stuff and you're like
Yeah.
first of all, sit down, because you know good and well you ain't healed. I've said it a couple times in my mind, like you know good and well you ain't got there yet. But you know what I'm saying? But it's an ugly journey. It really is. But it feels so good when you start to come out on the other side, or when you start to understand it a lot more, because there's so much more to go.
Right. There's so
Yeah.
much. And often I like I like they describe it as getting on the bus and saying, I'm leaving from Georgia and I'm going to California. And
That's a long ride.
sometimes you're gonna go from Georgia to Florida, and that's where you're gonna stay, right? The journey you're gonna stay down there for a little bit. Then you're gonna go to Florida to Tampa, and then you're gonna go across Florida a little bit. Then you're gonna come back to Georgia, and then you're gonna be there for a while. And then you're gonna head on North Carolina. Then you're like, okay, wait, that's the wrong direction. Now I gotta go east. So that's what healing actually looks like. It's not this continual straight line. I'm going to start from A and I'm going to go to Z. Maybe today you be at A. Maybe tomorrow you be like, girl, I'm popping at B. But then the next minute, man, back to A. This is constant. But each step of the journey is part of the healing process.
Yes.
Each step of it is purposeful because now it's intentional. Now there's a level of awareness you never had before. And each part will get you closer to where you want to be, which is this life of calm, this life of purpose, this life of peace. Right? Peace. Money can't buy peace.
Yeah. Oh,
You
exactly.
can't. No matter how much money no matter how successful you are, no matter how many degrees you have, no matter what your family look like, no matter any of that, it cannot provide you peace. Peace only comes from the inside.
Yeah. I always said that God, I want to trust you with my eyes closed or whatever. Then I start the healing journey. I said, God, I'm going to have to open my eyes up a little bit.
I know. What you doing?
Exactly. But the best thing about it is that even on the journey, it allows me to trust that God knew what was best for me. There's this song that, and I always talk about this in the podcast, but there's a song by Tasha Cobb Leonard and You Know My Name. And she says this verse in there, she says, God, you know me and I trust you with my life. The healing journey allows you to trust God in that process because there's so much ugliness. You need God to hold your hand. You trust God with those dark places to open you up, to share that stuff, to reveal himself in those situations. Because even while you're healing, life is still happening.
Right.
And it's just like you're trying to balance it all out. But God is just like, go, keep going. I got you. And that's when you start to see that God really does have you. And then you start to trust him a whole lot more. And I was like, okay, God, I can keep my eyes closed now. You know what I'm saying? I'm no longer in church, got my eyes closed while the preacher praying. And then next thing you know, I got my eyes open to see what everybody else doing. No, God, I got my eyes closed and I got my mind focused on you. I know that you got me. I know that you know what I'm saying? I know I could walk on water. One time I was reading in my Bible, and when Jesus was, I think it was Peter who asked God to come out, Jesus to walk on water. And so when he did, and then he started to once he started doing it and realized what he was doing, he became afraid. You know what I'm saying? Because the water started to move a little bit. And so I was reading in my Bible and the Holy Spirit told me that, showed me in that passage that God created that turbulence. God created the water to start moving. And the thing is that nothing in our lives happen without the permission of God. So when we go through those things and we feel that shift or that motion or whatever, like on the water, Peter walking on water, those things happen because God allows it. Not the fact that because for so long I felt like Peter didn't have the faith to walk on water because he got afraid. No, God allowed to shake it up because he was allowing him to trust him on a different level. You see that perspective shift when we start to become closer to God, because we may see things one way in one season, but we start to see things differently in another season.
Right. Girl, that's deep. And that is so true of our journey in this life. There's always going to be turbulence. There's always something unexpected that happens. That's the nature of life. But trusting God, believing that you're walking in purpose, believing in having faith, things that you cannot see, but having the belief system really will help you to overcome and get through whatever turbulence that's waiting around the corner.
Yeah.
Whatever unexpected thing. Who would have thought 3 years ago we would have been living through a pandemic?
No, good God.
You would have said that, people would have been like, she is off her rockers. Like, what? No way. No way. That will never happen.
Yes.
And as we're 2+ years into a pandemic, right? We're no longer saying that will never happen.
Exactly.
So, it's all about the unexpected happening, but understanding and having this sense of self, this inner peace, the sense of faith and trusting God that no matter what I'm faced with, I'm going to walk through it, because I'm never going to be alone in this journey.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be alone in this journey. And that's what we can all hope for in this life is walking on that water.
Yes. I'm never going to forget
Right,
that story.
turbulence.
I'm never
Yeah.
going to forget that story. Like it, I
Right.
mean, as many times as I read that story, that new revelation of it, but I feel like I was in a place where God could reveal that to me. Show a place of growth. You know, I was there to understand exactly what God was sharing to me in that moment. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this has been such an amazing
Yes.
conversation. Amazing.
Yes.
And listen, I'm a talker. So the guy that does my podcast, he always tells me that I'm supposed to be at a certain amount of time, right? And I always go over. Right? And so I've been trying, I'm talking about 1 hour, and next thing you know, I'm at an hour and a half. Then I went to 2 hours, and I'm like,
Right.
Jesus Christ! But sometimes you know how it gets so good, and and I told him, I said, okay, well, if I get over like that again, I'm just gonna have to do like a part 2 or something like that because the information is so good, and I just feel like it's gonna help somebody, and that's the biggest part for me starting a podcast is because I want to make sure that I'm helping people as I'm helping myself, and I just feel like. You brought so much good information, and I feel like we've given a whole lot, and it's kind of like we put it all on the table for people to grab. Take whatever it is that you need from this conversation and allow it to elevate you into your next journey. I always felt like God had placed people in my life to give me what I needed for my next season. So hopefully this conversation will be able to give somebody else what they need all along on their healing journey, because it's a scary place. It really is, not knowing the unknown, just like life. And it's just like we want to make sure, because there were some times where I thought I was failing. Like, am I doing this right? Just getting so nervous because I had been a perfectionist, just wanting to make sure, trying to be pleasing to God. And that wasn't what he was looking for.
No.
I placed those expectations of him on myself. That wasn't what he was looking for. That was me.
Right. It's a chapter in my book called Perfect is the Enemy of Good. Perfect is the enemy of good, right? Because when we striving for perfection, we ignore all the good we've done, all the good we've experienced, all the good aspects of our life, because we chasing this demon of perfection that never actually exists. It's perfection doesn't exist.
You know what? I'm so glad that you said that, because and this popped in my head while you're talking. God has never called us to chase anything. And when I started my podcast, I felt like I needed to do this, and this. And God was just like, no, because a lot of times, and this is what I grew up on, faith without work is dead, right? And the thing is that God has given me this desire of putting this together, and I'm doing the work by having these conversations. The next level of this has nothing to do with me. It's God's reason. God has that ability, and he reaches whoever it is that he wants to reach. So when I go out there and do whatever it is I do, what if I go out there and share, but this is for that person? Then it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? You're trying to grab people that God hasn't assigned you to. And so the Holy Spirit says to me, I didn't tell you to do any of that. And so I decided to take my hands off of it, because we feel like in order for us to be successful, we need to do X, Y, and Z. But God said, I didn't call you to do X, Y, and Z. All you have to do is create, and I will take you to the next level. Because it's kind of like we always feel like we need to meet somebody or this or that in order for us to get to that next level, because that person can help us. No, only thing that we need to meet God where he's at and allow him to, because he's the only one, because he's the only one that can elevate you. He's the only one that can take you to that next level. Instead of just searching for people, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things will be added upon you. So the only thing I need is to stay in connection with God and what it is that he wants for me. And that's it. So I have learned to take my hands off of it and enjoy the ride. And this, the part of enjoying is doing what I love to do. And it's having this communication with people and just doing, you know what I'm saying? Just showing them God's glory. That's it.
That's it. Well, this was great. Love having this conversation. Love impacting and imprinting on people's lives. And as you mentioned, for the listeners, take what you need. Exactly. Take what you need and share it. Because I promise you, there are women in your life right now that need this word, that need this encouragement. It may not be you, but I guarantee you it's somebody connected to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and that's how we heal the community. That's how we heal
Exactly.
the community.
I love that. I love that. I want you to tell everyone where they can find your book, Girl, Get Off the Couch.
Well, come on over to, you can grab my book at girlgetoffthecouch.com. I'm available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, all the things. You just go to Google and type in Girl Get Off the Couch and boom, you will pop up and see the book. You can join me on the gram at Dr. Radisha Brown, where I do all things related to healing, relationships, faith, all that good jazz to help you on your journey, to encourage you. And so it has been absolutely amazing talking with you. This has been good. This has been good for me as it's been for you. And continue this work because it's certainly helping the people that needs the help. So thank you.
That was perfect. And on that note, we're going to end right there.
This episode is sponsored by the Twindle Foundation. The Twindle Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to changing the wealth gap of African Americans and minorities by increasing homeownership. Did you know that 44% of Black families own their home compared to 73% of white families? A barrier to minority homeownership is student loan debt. Through scholarship, the Twindle Foundation is providing minority students with an opportunity to take on less financial debt. To give to the Twindle Foundation, visit www.twindlefoundation.org.